The Arizona Wildcats beat the Washington State Cougars. Final score: Arizona Wildcats 86 to the Washington State Cougars 59. I just thought it would be kind of cool to. I heard in the beginning, I heard about halfway through the game that the Arizona Wildcats had scored 26 points in the paint, down, in the box, down by the key. So that's a lot of points, and that can be shown by how many points that Tarszewski and Brendan Ashley had. Brendan Ashley had 17 points. Tarszewski had 17 points. Even Rondé Hollis Jefferson, the guard, I think he's 6'7". He had 17 points also. Stanley Johnson didn't get as many points as he normally gets. He usually averages around, I would say, 16, 17 points a game. For some reason, 14 point sticks in the back of my mind, but he only had 7 points a night. Made 1 out of 2 from free throw land. He had 1 offensive rebound. Brandon actually had 6 offensive rebounds. I think that offensive rebounds are just fantastic, showing of the power of a team whenever it gets a lot of offensive rebounds. The amount of offensive rebounds for the Arizona Wildcats was a total of 12 offensive rebounds, and half of those offensive rebounds were from Brandon Ashley. So Brandon Ashley really came out to play. He did pretty good. Caleb Kraszewski had one offensive rebound and 3 defensive rebounds, so he had 4 total rebounds. So that's better, than I think the last game he had 3 total rebounds. So this game he had 4, so that's a little bit better. It's very, very unusual that we get a final score that are the same on back-to-back games. We scored 80. The Arizona Wildcats scored 86 points against the Washington Huskies on Friday, and they scored 86 points again against the Washington State Cougars today, Sunday. So the total amount of points in the paint for the Arizona Wildcats was 46 total points in the paint. Like I said, Brandon Ashley made a heck of a lot of points, 17, and Caleb Kraszewski had 17 points also. So that's like 34 altogether of your 46 points in the paint. I'm sure that Rondé Hollis Jefferson knocked down a few of those, brought in a few of those points in the paint also. That brought up that total. T.J. McConnell had 8 assists tonight, which is fantastic. I think that the best thing that we can have, one of the best things that the Arizona Wildcats can have is a very, very high amount of assists. And with T.J. McConnell still doing a great amount of assists, with 8 tonight, I think he usually gets like 5 or 6 assists average a game, so he did pretty good tonight. He had 8 assists. Stanley Johnson, I think they kind of got in his head, or he just was having an off night, but he did have 1 assist, so he did pretty good, but he also had 1 turnover. But speaking of turnovers, T.J. McConnell had 3 turnovers, so it was kind of the last game, T.J. McConnell had 10 assists, and I think he had 10 points or something like that, but he had 3 turnovers. So he had 3 turnovers. T.J. McConnell from the Arizona Wildcats had 3 turnovers again this game. I like it where he's getting quite a few assists. He's getting a lot of assists in this game. But I just don't like those turnovers. It's a little bit too high. Maybe two, or maybe one turnover per 8 assists would be more agreeable, more something that I could deal with. Rondae Hollis Jefferson had 1 assist. He had 3 turnovers also. So and Gabe York had 2 turnovers. So that's, that was 11 total turnovers that the Arizona Wildcats had, compared to the Washington State Huskies, or the Washington State Cougars, which had 14 total turnovers. Now, 11 turnovers for the Arizona Wildcats is kind of acceptable to Sean Miller, but I think that he would definitely want that less to be less than what it was. Probably somewhere around 8 turnovers or something like that, because you got such a wide margin of victory. It's what is that, a 27-point victory or something like that. And so the amount of turnovers, it didn't really come from Matt Korchak, Jacob Hazard, Drew Mellon. Those guys didn't make turnovers, and so you weren't getting a lot of turnovers contribution from those guys. You would get your turnovers from Rondae Hollis Jefferson and T.J. McConnell and Gabe York. Some of your starters, some of the guys that have played over 25 minutes at least. Those are the ones that get a whole lot of turnovers. But then I guess you could say, well, only look at how long Matt Korchak only played 8 minutes, and Jacob Hazard only played 3 minutes, and Drew Mellon only played 2 minutes. So I guess it's kind of, once you put out the ratio of how many turnovers per minute, then I guess it's a little bit more understandable that T.J. McConnell had 3 turnovers, and Rondae Hollis Jefferson had 3 turnovers also. Rondae Hollis Jefferson had some really nice dunks tonight. The Washington State Cougars just couldn't handle the athleticism of the Arizona Wildcats. Although there was something that the Washington State Cougars did really, really nicely, and I'm pretty impressed with that. And that's what they did was there was a time being that Dexter Kernich-Drew from the Washington State Cougars, he was hot. There was a time when he was hot from the three-point land. I think he made 4 3-pointers in a row within, I don't know, what was it, probably less than a couple minutes, or no, less than 5 minutes. He made 4 3-pointers in a row. Those 3-pointers were just him. He just got the ball, and he was feeling comfortable, and he just let it fly. He just let it fly. He didn't have to dribble or anything like that to make himself open for a 3-pointer, for a 3-point attempt. He was just someone kicked that ball off to him. I think Nia Redding kicked the ball off to him. Kicked the ball off to Dexter Kernich-Drew a couple times. I think that who else did it? I think Devontae Lacey also kicked off a 3-pointer assist to Dexter Kernich-Drew, and so Dexter Kernich-Drew had a total of 6 out of 9 from 3-point land. So he knocked down 6 3-pointers, so he did really good. He was the highest scorer on the Washington State Cougars tonight. He with 20 points. The second highest scorer was Devontae Lacey with 18 points. If you look at the amount of assists, the highest amount of assists were 4 from Nye Redding. He kicked off the ball, the 2 3-pointer attempts, or 2 3-pointer assists to Dexter Kernich-Drew. And there was another guy that had 4 assists, and that was Ike Irogbu. I think that is how you say it. I don't know. But he had 4 assists also. So, but his were more. He kicked it off to somebody that was shot at a field goal. They were shooting more of a, like a 2-pointer. He didn't knock down any shots himself for the Washington State Cougars, but he did kick it off nicely and get quite a few assists with 4 total. So the Washington State Cougars had 14 total assists tonight, as compared with the Arizona Wildcats, which only had 11 total assists tonight. And that is something, like I said, it's teamwork. Teamwork is something that the Arizona Wildcats are really going to need to work on some more if they want to go up in that and if they want to increase their chances of getting a high seed. People say that they are not going to be able to get into the number 1 seed because the losses that they had against ASU, against Oregon State, against UNLV were all teams that had an RPI of 80 or more, and that's very damaging for their seed picking. And so Gonzaga, even though the Arizona Wildcats beat Gonzaga a couple months ago, then Gonzaga has a better RPI, better luck at getting that number 1 seed because they played against some people and they lost. They haven't lost to anybody that has really bad RPI, like the Arizona Wildcats have. But anyway, so we were 10 for 20 from free throws lands. That's for the Arizona Wildcats. That's a big no-no. Something needs to be fixed in that category. And one of the reasons why the Arizona Wildcats brought down their free throws percentage, or their free throw percentage, so badly, with only shooting 57% from free throw land, is or 50% from free throw land, is because Rondae Hollis Jefferson from the Arizona Wildcats only made 1 out of 6 tonight. He made 8 out of 9 from field goal land, but he only made 1 out of 6 from the charity stripe. So that was a big killer. He ended up with a double-double. Last game, it was T.J. McConnell, which ended up with 10 assists, or 10 points and 10 assists, I think, or something around there. But Rondae Hollis Jefferson ended up with a double-double this time, ending with 10 rebounds and 17, total of 17 points. As far as the amount of steals, we had T.J. McConnell with 4 steals. Parker Jackson Cartwright is still out. The second-string point guard for the Arizona Wildcats is still out. So, I'm excited for whenever Parker Jackson Cartwright can get back in the game. But I know that head injuries are very, very, very touchy things to deal with, and you want to make sure that it's totally fixed before you encounter any more knocks in the head. And Gabe York had 1 for 4 from 3-point land tonight. Elliot Pitts had 1 for 3 from 3-point land. So that's not too bad. Um, like I said, the Arizona Wildcats have 57% shot 57% from field goal land today, while the Washington State Cougars shot 42%. Like the biggest one of the biggest benefits for the Arizona Wildcats was 46 points in the paint compared to the Washington State Cougars, which only had 12 points in the paint. You can see just something that was a little bit interesting is the Arizona Wildcats scored 53 points in the first half, while the Washington State Cougars only scored 19 points in the first half. But then the Arizona Wildcats only scored 33 points in the second half, and the Washington State Cougars scored 40 points in the second half. So in the second half, the Washington State Cougars actually won that half. They shot, they made 40 points, so the Arizona Wildcats only made 33. Second chance points for the Arizona Wildcats, they were able to get 11 second chance points, and then the Washington State Cougars were able to only get 3 second chance points. Points off turnovers, the Arizona Wildcats has 15 points off turnovers. The Washington State Cougars had 3 points off turnovers. If you look at the amount of steals, total amount of steals, it was 5. Washington State had 5 total amount of steals, while the Arizona Wildcats had 7 total amount of steals. The Arizona Wildcats had 4 blocks, while the Washington State Cougars had 1 block. There's not a whole lot of discrepancy as far as the amount of steals. The five steals as compared to 7 steals. So it's interesting that there is such a discrepancy in between the amount of points off turnovers and the second chance points. That the 15 plus 11 second chance points that's a total of 26 points as compared to the Washington State Cougars, which had 3 points off turnovers and 3 second chance points. So they had 6. So it was 26 to 6 total of the second chance and points off turnover. So that was another big thing, and the big thing in the favor of the Arizona Wildcats. Arizona had 4 fast break points as compared to Washington State, which had 11. That's kind of interesting. There's so much of a difference in between the fast break points in the Washington State Beavers or Washington State Cougars favor. So that was kind of unusual. The largest lead for the Arizona Wildcats was 36 points at one point. They were leading by 36 points. The Washington State Cougars never were leading this game at any point. So the Washington State Cougars had a really hard time tonight from free throws with free throws from the charity stripe, which they were only 8 out of 20 from free throws, and so they had like I said, they had 40. They only made 40% of their free throws. Washington State got totally out rebounded tonight. The Arizona Wildcats had 44 rebounds, while the Washington State Cougars only had 23. Personal fouls are kind of matched up with 19 and 18. I think the biggest thing to me that I'm going to be looking at, because I think that Arizona is going to play USC on Thursday at 7, I think, our time, Mountain Time, is that I just want more teamwork. I mean, and I think that you can see the amount of teamwork by the amount of assists that were given, that were received in that game. I mean, 11 total assists, and eight of those 11 assists were from T.J. McConnell. I mean, kind of. I mean, T.J. McConnell is a point guard. Yes, he's your guy that you want to, that can carry a lot of that load as far as the amount of assists. But there just needs to be more teamwork, definitely, for the Arizona Wildcats. Whereas the Washington State Cougars had more passed around. They had Ike Erogbu with 4, and then they had Devontae Lacey with 3, and then they had 4 assists from Nye Redding. There was 3 different guys which had assists. I think the teamwork is something that the Arizona Wildcats really need to work on. They really need to work on it. Defense is very valuable, because you got that 3-point, all those 3-pointers, 6 3-pointers knocked down by Dexter Kernich-Drew from the Washington State Cougars. Defense is extremely important, but also just teamwork, I think, is the basics that is really valuable. I mean, you gotta depend on your teammates for them to block those 3-point attempts, and to catch your man if you lose him, to be able to rely on your teammates to save you in case you get picked out, So the Arizona Wildcats really need to work on their teamwork, I think. And I know I'm kind of grasping at straws here by saying that, but that's something that the Arizona Wildcats really need to work on. And they're going to be playing USC, and I think they're going to do fine against USC at home, in the Arizona Wildcats over at the McKale Center. But as far as UCLA, that's going to be a little bit more dicey. But UCLA is not a very good traveling team, so Arizona Wildcats should be able to beat the UCLA Bruins. But I'm not sure. Who knows? We'll see what happens. Anyway, kind of a blowout game here, but the Arizona Wildcats win this game against the Washington State Cougars. The Arizona Wildcats final score. But like I said, more teamwork from the Washington State Cougars than the Arizona Wildcats. That's my own personal opinion. And so good for the Washington State Cougars, even though they lost by a lot. I think that they had a greater amount of assists, and I think that's very valuable. So the Arizona Wildcats beat the Washington State Cougars. The final score: Arizona Wildcats 86 to the Washington State Cougars 59.